All right. RoomSuite Modular System design training. So, RoomSuite Modular System is something that was released, within the past year. And it was released with a specific intention in mind, and we're definitely going to talk about that. So, quickly walking through the five modules we're going to cover. First of all, why Room Suite? We're going to talk about, kind of the intent behind why Room Suite was released. Then we'll do an intro, talk about the hardware, talk about the software, and kind of dive deeper into that. Then we're going to build a couple of different systems and talk about the hardware selection and go over some of the rules surrounding Room Suite. Then we're going to scale up and look at larger systems and talk about Reflect and some of the other cool tools that we have at our disposal. And then we'll do a summary. But first of all, let's talk about why Room Suite, because I think this is very important and it sets the stage for the rest of the conversation that we're going to be having around Room Suite Modular System. So if we think about a standard corporate campus deployment of AV, we have an office building, multiple buildings belonging to one organization. Within those places are workplaces made up of interconnected spaces, high impact lobbies, cafeterias, all the spaces in between. And then within those spaces, each space has an application. So maybe it's conferencing, paging, digital signage, etc. And this really applies to kind of any large campus, large scale deployment of AV from a small place to a large place. There are places, spaces, and applications that apply to the AV. So when we look at the installation type, we kind of look at this in a pyramid. And the first tier of the pyramid are specialized places. These are bespoke applications. They're often built to accomplish a specific thing. There's often only one or maybe two on a campus. Sometimes they're only used once or twice a quarter. These are places built for a very specific use case. Then we get into customized. There are going to be more of these, and but it's still custom to the space and the end user requirements. Think larger training rooms, cafes, auditoriums, all hand spaces. There's not a lot, but they're there. Then we get into standardized. So these are smaller, think like extra large or large conference rooms where there's a standard room type and feature set. There might be a couple minor deviations from room to room, but in general, going from a room to room, they're pretty similar. And then we get into mass deployment. So this is the same software, same hardware, same applications across all of these spaces. Often they're smaller, they're more used in day-to-day work from the on-staff team. And specifically, if you have multiple types of these rooms in multiple different buildings, someone would be able to, use a room in building one and then later use a room in building seven, and they're exactly the same. It won't even feel like you're in a different space. So, thinking about all of the different installation types, from the large bespoke to the mass deployment rooms, we need to think about where Q-SYS fits in to the pyramid, so to speak. So, if we look at a a floor of a corporate campus, you have the larger rooms like the training room, the break room. We fit in those very well. because they require the custom programming and the other functions that Q-SYS has been able to accomplish. And then you get into the smaller spaces, and maybe due to cost constraints or space constraints, it becomes more difficult for us to fit in those spaces. Um, and then you get into the smaller rooms. These are often the mass deployment meeting rooms where everything is identical. And while Q-SYS can work in these smaller spaces, there is an overhead to customization that can't be offset, in addition to the fact that mass deployment has a tendency to be time consuming. So we look at all of this with the Q-SYS solution, and we wanted to find a way to make it easier to set up, configure, manage, and deploy. So let's look at our kind of traditional Q-SYS system, an example of the components of one of these smaller rooms before RoomSuite. So for the AV, we have our infrastructure. This is going to be our core. Video products and a configured switch. We have our endpoints, camera, mics, loudspeakers, third-party devices. Um, Almost every room at this point is going to have some type of UC uh, part of it, whether that is a dedicated compute or BYOD, or oftentimes both. And then we have designer software where we can create our custom UCIs, do our DSP tuning, and we can get into Reflect and manage and monitor the system. So, typically this is about a day, maybe more, depending on the complexity of the space. And so you can see if the system is mass deployed, how this could just add time to the situation. Talking about designer software specifically, this is an example of what a room might look like. This is totally fine, but it's a lot of work for a small space. It might be hard to sell to an end user. And that is where RoomSuite Modular System comes in. The goal of RoomSuite was to provide a product and product suite that can easily fit into standard and mass deployment systems. Because of the three tenets, we kind of built this off. Simplified deployment. We wanted to be able to easily physically install the devices using network connections wherever possible. Simplified configuration. It is web browser based. There's no custom programming. And simplified management using Reflect. We add mass deployment and management capabilities for RoomSuite systems. So we've kind of gone over why RoomSuite. The goal again is to be able to better support mass deployment systems and make it easier to manage and deploy and install. Let's go over the hardware and software. So first of all, the two new devices are the foundation of the RoomSuite modular system. This is a bundle. So when you purchase RoomSuite, you'll get both of these devices as well as a cable kit that has various HDMI and USB-C cables. We have our RMP 100 processor. This is our AV processor, network switch, and comes with a power supply. And then we have our QIO Ven 4, which is our table expander for connections at a table. First, let's look at the RMP 100 processor. So we have a USB-C and USB-A for AV USB bridging and connections there. We have two HDMI inputs and two HDMI outputs. We have some small amount of control, so we can take in signal from a occupancy sensor. We have a couple RS-232 ports for controlling like displays. And this is really meant to live behind the display and be able to plug in like the HDMI outputs directly to the display or displays or to a compute. So the control capabilities for the RMP 100. We do have the ability to control displays. CEC, serial, and IP are all available. And with serial and IP, you would just populate the specific commands for that display or displays in the uh, Room Manager UI. We do also have, again, GPIO for an occupancy sensor. And we do have some smarts built into the box already that will automatically power the room on or off, and like power the displays on or off based on occupancy and user input and stuff like that. So then looking at the network connections, we do have an aux networks. Now these ports are very similar to core network ports. The intention here is for aux A and aux B to be used to connect to an enterprise network or get it to reflect, and they are completely separated from the integrated network switch, which we have right here. So this is a zero user configuration required built-in PoE network switch. It does not allow you to connect other third-party network switches. So it's for the AV devices only. And within that switch, we have 7 ports that are PoE plus capable. And then that you'll see port 1 is Type 4 Class 8. This is actually a specific PoE++ port designed for powering the QIO Ven 4 fully over PoE. And so that is a amazing transition to the QIO Ven 4. This device is meant
Hey,
to.
John, I've got a question here before we move into the QIO Vent
Oh
4.
yeah, totally.
Brad Sandy says, are there any occupancy sensors we're recommending? You guys in the field, are we presently making any recommendations or anything like that that you know of or for room sensors?
I have not come across any yet. Uh,
Okay.
I would.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any either, but these are not like the what we would use with Q-SYS. They're a more of a just a two-wire GPI, right? So it's more of a contact closure just to let you know. Well,
Yeah, so probably anything that'll give you a dry contact closure. In the Q-SYS environment, we use that. So good question, Brad. I appreciate that. So yeah, anything that'll give you end up giving you a two-wire dry contact closure works great there. So awesome. Go take it away, Sean. Thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so the Ben 4, this is the device designed to provide connections at a table for table mics, laptop, touch panels. We have our USB-C port, which is used for bridging and content encode. We have the HDMI that can also do content encode. And the device has its own built-in 4 network ports with PoE Plus for connecting any of our table peripherals. So a quick little BYOD example for a RoomSuite system. You can see we have our room processor at the display, outputting HDMI to the display. Couple network connections to a speaker and a camera. And then we have that one single network connection going from the room processor to the expander. Makes it a lot simpler to run that cable because often it's not a straight, down and across the room to the table. Often it's a up and over and down and around and through a different floor. So having it be able to be standard Cat 6 is a lot simpler. And then the expander is actually supporting our touchscreen controller, our two microphones, and the USB-C connection for our laptop all at the table. Now, BYOD is great, but we do also have the ability to work with Microsoft Teams and Zoom rooms, and we'll get into how that works in a little bit. So, looking at the software, this should look very familiar to you. If you've ever done any Q-SYS deployments before, this probably looks like Core Manager and Peripheral Manager. We did this because we wanted a unified look and feel for management of larger fleets of systems with both RoomSuite and Cores. But obviously, as this video is showing, there are some tabs specific to RoomSuite and the RoomSuite control. So like the touch panel tab, where you can edit what the touch panel looks like. There's the audio tab. And speaking of audio tab, you'll see a option there called optimization. One thing that we have added here is the ability to automate audio commissioning when using all Q-SYS microphones. This is, essentially you run it, it beeps and boops and sweeps and talks and all that stuff in a quiet room, and then it automatically sets parameters and settings within the system for the room tuning. But it does not lock you out. It'll give you a report. It'll show you what it changed, and you can still go into the audio settings manually to make any adjustments there that you would like. All right, so we have talked about why, we've talked about what. Now let's put it into practice and build a couple systems. And we need to, in this space, also talk about kind of the rules and the, kind of knowing the limits, so to speak, of RoomSuite Modular System. We built this to be flexible, but also easy to deploy, manage, monitor. And so with that, we need to make sure we know, what peripherals are available, what the right components to use are, and then we can apply that to designing a small conference room. So power over Ethernet is the first and probably the second most important aspect of designing a system, only being beat by just the actual number of ports on the devices. But we want to make sure that we don't exceed PoE because there is a limit. So the RMP 100 provides a total of 212 watts of PoE budget, and we supply up to 75 watts to the QIO Ven 4. From those 75 watts we apply to the Ven 4, we get up to 50 watts out of the 4 ports on the Ven 4 for our peripherals. And then we get up to 130 watts out of the 7 other ports of our RMP 100. Note that there are 11 ports total, no more, no less. So that gives you a good idea of how many things can actually physically be plugged into the devices. So when you're designing a RoomSuite modular system, considering PoE and port count when specifying peripherals is definitely the first step to designing a system. In addition, we will keep track of the PoE budget for you. So when you go into the room design page of the Room Manager UI, you'll see a listed amount of PoE that we're pulling and the total PoE budget that we have. And this will update based on the devices that are connected and how much power those devices are pulling. So when we're talking about peripherals, um, we have a full suite of Q-SYS peripherals that work for the conference room. And we are able to use those devices within RoomSuite Modular System. So we have our NL series of networked loudspeakers, those being our SB42, our C4 in ceiling, and our P4 pendant. We have our NC series cameras. We have our NM series microphones, and spoiler alert, third-party mic support. I'll get to that in a bit. And then we have our TSC series touch panels. This is specifically the 7-inch and 10-inch panel are supported. And we can do a max of 2 of those, either 7 or 10, mix and match. Getting specifically into the audio, we can do a total of up to 6 network loudspeakers. Specifically, it's a max of 4 NLP4 or NLC4, and then a max of 2 SB42s. So you can imagine the SB42s mounted left and right of the display or displays, and then the P4 C4 is mounted in the ceiling to just add some, maybe some reinforcement towards the back of the room. And then we can do up to 4 of our NMT1 table microphones. However, I spoiled support for third-party mics. It is really a maximum of 4 microphones total, either 4 NMT1s or 3 NMT1s, and 1 Dante-enabled ceiling microphone. So the RMP 100 actually supports a single Dante stream in and out. So for example, an MXA 920 or a TCC2, you pull the auto mix or far end out into the RMP 100, and then you send back to the microphone the AEC reference, so it does all the AEC in the microphone. And we do have, for all of the microphones listed here, actually, we do have drivers built into the processor so that when you tie in the Dante channels, you can also select a driver so that the the ceiling mic's LED syncs with mute sync for call muting, red, green. I'll get to that in a bit. And then, like I said, we can do up to 2 of our NC series cameras. These can be a mix of our NC 12 by 80, 20 by 60, and our NC 90 G2. You could do 2 PTZs if you want. You could do 2 NC 90s. You could do a mix. I would say most rooms of the RoomSuite modular flavor may only need 1 camera, but you have the ability to add a second one for additional reinforcement if needed. So we go back to our Q-SYS system components. Let's look at what this system would look like with RoomSuite. Now, you're going to notice not a lot changes, but I think the stuff that changes is very crucial to the space. Our infrastructure changed from a dedicated core and video components and network switch to just the RMP 100 and QIO Ven 4. We changed from Q-SYS Designer to the web-based room manager. There's no design file needed for RoomSuite. It's all done through the web. And we have significantly cut down the time that it'll take to deploy this. I mean, it says an hour there. I would say with confidence that if a system was installed correctly and is ready to go, I could get it up and running in 15 minutes. I mean, it's really very simple to do. All right, let's design a room. So we have the 7-person meeting room. the end user appropriately chose a table that's wider at the front because they understand camera sightlines. And this room needs microphones, loudspeakers, the capability to run with BYOD, cameras with automation, and a touchscreen controller. We'll start with BYOD, BYOM, but we'll look at how to add a conferencing codec in a little bit. So obviously we need the base bundle first with the RoomSuite processor connecting to the expander. We'll use our NM series tabletop mics. These have a 360-degree coverage and a diameter of 4.3 inches, so they're very small. We're going to use 2 of those for now. And then we have our NLSB 42s. Let's just keep the speakers out of the ceiling for now. We'll put one on each side of the display mounted vertically so it looks nice and neat. So we have our base bundle. We have the room processor behind the display, the expander at the table connected to each other over a single network cable. We'll add our NL series loudspeakers on either side of the display, and we'll add our NM series microphones at the table. So far, this entire solution is using just network cable, just Cat6, shielded not required. So we've gotten our microphones, we got our loudspeakers, audio is designed, audio is good to go. Now let's look at BYOD and cameras. So again, the connections on the RoomSuite system for our displays and our laptop, we can take HDMI out of the processor directly to the display or displays. This room only has one, but we could do 2. And then the laptop can connect to the USB-C port of the Ven 4, both for AV USB bridging and content encode. And then we can put a camera or 2 plugged into the network ports of the processor, and we're good to go. So again, we have our audio. Now let's add video. So USB-C from the laptop to the expander for bridging and content. We have our HDMI from the room processor to the displays, and another category cable for the room processor to a camera. So again, most of the system is running off of Ethernet. The cables that are not Ethernet, like our USB-C and HDMI, are nice and short, so we don't have to worry about distance limitations for those cables. And now we need control. So, this room, does it really need a touch panel? Probably not, but it's getting one because the end user required it, said, no, we need one, and they know best. So one of the nice things about RoomSuite Modular System is that the user control interface is auto-generated, and it's auto-generated based on the devices that you have added to RoomSuite. So if you have 2 cameras, it's going to give you the ability to switch cameras. If you enabled an additional input at the processor for like wireless devices, that will become a device that you could switch video to. That's what is really nice. It's automatic. There is some customization, but in general, the user interface is ready to go. And you don't need to do anything other than maybe changing colors and adding a logo. Basic customization of the UCI includes being able to change some colors. You can theme it simple or advanced. We can do dark mode, light mode, change the font. We can add logos, background images, but everything else is auto-populated for like navigation controls based on what's in your system. And then if we change the room to Microsoft Teams Room or Zoom Room, the UCI will update with built-in CSS to emulate the codec that you're using. So if it's a Teams room, the UCI with the second page experience will look like Teams, and likewise with Zoom. Or BYOD, you just get what we're seeing here. And we do have automatic call sync. Again, no programming required. This syncs with either BYOD or conferencing compute via USB. All of our devices that have the light bar, light ring will sync with this. So our NLSB42, our touch panels, and our NMT1. And this will also work with any of the third-party ceiling microphone that we have the driver for. All right, so let's add control. We'll add our TSC at the table for controlling the room, and maybe we added a occupancy sensor to help automate the room's power, and we're done. That's a basic, 7-person conference room using RoomSuite. We still have that one category cable connection between the processor and the expander. This system is ready to go. All right, so let's scale up. We know how to do a simple BYOD room, so let's add to it. We'll see how big we can go with RoomSuite Modular and how to integrate a dedicated compute to the system. So a larger meeting room with in-room UC, we need integrated control UC and AV, and we need content share or BYOD. Maybe the CEO uses Google Meet and the rest of the company uses Teams. We need to be able to support that, and we can. So a room like this without RoomSuite, you have the UC compute going to the displays. We have our controller. Oftentimes this controller is connected via USB-C, or maybe it's connected with a USB extender, or maybe it's just CAT, network connection straight to their corporate network. Content share is going from the laptop into the controller. Oftentimes this is low resolution, and that is usually because the controller is both receiving the video for the UC and also sending the video for the laptop. You can connect content directly to the compute, but it's behind the display, so you would need an extender. All of our peripherals are USB. So that will potentially take more extension kits. And if you need ceiling speakers or ceiling microphone, then you are essentially integrating a whole AV system to add on to this. So with RoomSuite, the room processor acts as both the bridging device and content share to the UC compute, because in a Teams or Zoom room mode, we can actually output video from the room processor to the input of the UC compute. So more network, less USB, and then we can also do BYOD with a laptop connected to an expander, and we can use this to serve content to the compute as well. And when we have all of our Q-SYS peripherals connected through the network. We can do the second page experience for the controller. And this is very similar to what we've been able to do with our core-based systems, where we essentially have our UCI put on the room controls tab of the UC. But we oftentimes want a single touch panel. This has been a bit of a struggle. We do have a solution for that. I'll get to that in a bit. Spoiler. So let's look at how this connects physically. So we have our network connection to our expander that supports content and AV bridging. The compute connects directly to the displays. And then we have AV bridging for the compute through the RMP 100. And the RMP 100 outputs HDMI to the PC for content. For serving our UCI from RoomSuite, we do require the compute connect to our main LAN of the processor, and this is specifically because of the new software that we're using called Q-SYS Connect. And again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I do want to say that now. LAN 2 will go to the to the IT network, and then our aux LAN for the processor will also go to the IT network for monitoring and reflect. So we are requiring with Q-SYS Connect, at least as of right now, that the compute connect directly to the RMP 100's main network. But this is being worked on. So looking at the room again, we have the controller with the second page experience. And we want to talk about how do we BYOM or BYOD with this wiring configuration. Well, when we set up the room in a Teams room or Zoom room mode, we get the ability to select the source to share. And when we select a laptop source, we get the bring your own meeting option to be able to tell the system, hey, I'm using this laptop for a conference, not content, and it automatically updates things in the background to make sure that the meeting can run on the laptop. Teams behaves very similar. The only difference here is that, with CSS, we're stylizing the UCI to, match the codec that is being used in the space. So we have our large meeting room. We've checked all the boxes. So we have our in-room UC with the compute connecting to the displays. We have our integrated control, and we have our content share or BYOD. Right now, unfortunately, we're up to 2 cables to the table, but we'll fix that shortly with Q-SYS Connect. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just very exciting. Looking at an example of a space like this, this is an actual space we have in our Experience Center in London. It's a 14-seat boardroom. We have 6 of our NL series loudspeakers, 4 NT1s on the table, an NC90 camera above the display, and a TSC 101 at the table. And this system is using RoomSuite Modular System. So how big can we go with RoomSuite? NMT1s are a good example. We can support up to 4. But what does this really mean? Well, think of the NMT1 pickup radius is about 6 feet or 2 meters. You put 4 of them at a table, and you will be able to pick up a table that is up to about 24 feet long. In theory, this is totally doable, but a space that is as large as this may benefit from using a ceiling array microphone like your Sennheiser, Shure flavors, etc. So in general, we want to make sure that when we are scaling up RoomSuite Modular System, which we can do, we want to use good AV design principles and apply the guidelines for RoomSuite Modular. Our help file online is a great place to get assistance if you need it. And obviously, if you have any questions, myself and Jim will be able to help you with that.
Yeah, and I also teach people, if you don't know who your regional support people are, absolutely, reach out. You can reach out to me. I'll try to connect you with them as well too. So Jim, like I said at the beginning of the webinar, Sean and Jim both support our efforts in the western part of the U.S. which should be all along the Pacific coast there, Nevada, Arizona. You guys know better where you cover all of that, over to Colorado and all of those areas as well too. So
Yeah.
appreciate the investment of time, everybody, today, and glad that you had the opportunity to join. And we look forward to joining you back. Let me just.
Oh, Dan, we're not done.
Oh, shoot! I thought you were at the
Ahead of
end.
yourself, Dan. Sorry, I guess I did kind of do a little sign off, but no, I got to talk about Reflect and Connect.
Well, that's probably the most important part of it. So,
It's the most important, it's also the most exciting.
yeah, well, yeah, that's some of the ability there. I'm sorry about that. Go
No,
ahead.
it's all good. So we've designed a couple different types of RoomSuite systems. Let's look at how to deploy them at scale. Q-SYS Reflect is our cloud monitoring and management tool. Within Q-SYS Reflect, we have two tiers: normal Reflect and then Reflect Plus. But Reflect allows for remote management of all Q-SYS devices. This is our cores, our RoomSuite systems, all with a unified core manager interface look and feel. One thing that you can do with Reflect Plus is you can create and deploy presets for devices. We've been able to do this with core-based systems for a while, but we've added the ability to support RoomSuite Modular Systems as well. And what essentially you can do is you can create configuration presets for a system or a group of systems. And within these presets, you can save the settings and states of a bunch of different stuff and make this a preset for like a RoomSuite modular system. And when your 10, 20 rooms start coming online and they connect to Reflect, you can apply the preset within the Reflect interface, and the RMS system will bring down all of those settings and automatically apply them. So this is great for when you have multiple rooms that are identical, and you can much easier with a much more easier time deploying the configuration. We also have our space manager. So the management function in Space Manager helps organize systems using our real estate core standard ontology. This is widely used in building management systems and ensures compatibility with other systems such as Microsoft Places. This function supports the assignment of cores to various spaces such as buildings, levels, and rooms. So you have organized system management. Think of this like I have uh, a building, and within that building, I have multiple different floors, but I want to break it down between the actual spaces within the floor, and maybe I want to break it down even further. And then we have Systems Explorer, which provides multiple different ways to navigate and find systems within Reflect. We can filter things out, we can favorite and tag, allowing users to mark and categorize systems. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that we get with Reflect. Now, I teased Q-SYS Connect several times, and I did this on purpose. Q-SYS Connect is a new piece of software that we released recently. This feels a bit like burying the lead, but I think it was important to talk about what we could do up to that point, and then add in Connect that I feel ties things together very well. So let's go back to our conference room with the compute system and BYOD. Again, we have that touch panel with the second page control. And the whole thing I've been getting at with RoomSuite is that we have that single Cat6 connection between the processor and the expander. But with this, we have that cable going to the controller. And it would be really nice if we could eliminate that cable so we can maintain the single category connection between the table and the displays. So this is where Q-SYS Connect comes in. Um, Standard UC control, you're limited with USB connection. And the controller is often a touch display output from the compute. There are quantity limitations for most small form factor PCs. And there's only one controller with two displays. So we have USB infrastructure, lacking flexibility, controllers and output. With Zoom, the Q-SYS Connect software is a software created UC controller that controls all the touch interactions and sends the PC display to a Q-SYS touch panel. So now this is with Zoom. Teams is in the works. So what we can do is with like a TSC 70, TSC 101, we can actually host the Zoom Room UI on our glass. This is for both core systems and RoomSuite Modular Systems. And so what it allows us to do in that room with the UC compute is now we can add a TSC 101 as an example and put Q-SYS Connect on the UC compute running Zoom, host the Zoom controller UI on our glass, and we could have two TSCs if we wanted. Like maybe one's at the table and one's at a wall. Or maybe the table's really long and there isn't enough room to have somebody reach over with TSC in the middle of the table. So we need one at the front of the table, one at the back. They sync and they both present the UI from the Zoom Room system that we can use. And then we, like Zoom Room systems now, we can still serve the second page experience to the room controls tab of the UC UI. So, in summary, RoomSuite was built to better assist with mass deployment type spaces within your corporate campus, where you need a repeatable, easily deployable solution. The base bundle of the RoomSuite Modular System is our RMP 100 and our Ven 4 expander. It comes with a cable kit and it has all of the built-in ports and connections we need to support a full conference room. We can build a system using our various Q-SYS peripherals like our touchscreens, our cameras, our microphones, and our speakers. And we support up to one third-party ceiling array mic. And when we want to build a room, we have a lot of flexibility in how we can build that, being that the system can run off of almost all category cable. And we have the ability to enable you to very easily deploy, manage, and monitor this with Reflect, and really add flexibility with things like Q-SYS Connect. James, I see your question. Can you do Teams rooms in the same way? Not yet. It is a work in progress. Microsoft wants to own the whole solution, but we are working very diligently with them to try and make this reality.
I think our famous quote is, "We've never been closer." No,
Yeah,
there's
that's
challenges with that, and I completely get that. I mean, Mike, that's what's been some of the success of Teams rooms is that like they really try to control every piece of the hardware. It's almost like the Apple mentality of if we make the laptop, then our OS, we know how the OS is going to respond. So,
right. Right.
anyways,
Yeah. So
Mr. Analogy over here, I'll come up with three more if you give me a minute.
yeah, so that's all that we got. That's Q-SYS RoomSuite Modular System in a nutshell. If there are any additional questions, I think we have some time to answer those. And if not, thank you for joining and have a good rest of your day. But we'll hang on for a bit if there are any additional questions that you have. Happy to answer those.
Cool. Matt Bell says, can RoomSuite tap into Q-SYS amplifiers?
No, we cannot use RoomSuite with Q-SYS amplifiers. Again, the whole kind of point of the RoomSuite solution was to make it as easy to install as possible. So an emphasis was placed on, utilizing the built-in network switch for the category network cables, and utilizing the network loudspeakers that we have already had to make that a reality. So the idea being you're pulling as little different types of cables as possible.
Yep, perfect. Any other questions along there? Let's see. Trying to see. I'm looking through the attendee list, see if I know anybody there. So,
I recognize a couple people. I
oh, that's
see,
funny.
I see Brad and Kevin.
Does anybody I maybe Jim's old enough to remember Romper Room when the lady would look through this fake mirror thing and like she'd just say generic, there's Jim and there's Bob and there's Dan. Oh, she said my name, so I thought it was magic, the magic of television back in the day. So and then there's been a couple of times as I'm waiting for people if they've got any questions, I'm just keeping it going here. There's also been times when I see a name and I think it's someone I've worked with and I'm like, no, I never worked there, Dan. It's different dude, different different Jim Smith. So
I
well,
was on
cool.
I was on a
Well,
call the other day, and there was another Sean Murphy spelled the exact same way.
oh,
And I
which
know Sean Murphy's a like a semi-popular name, I guess, but like it was weird to have two Sean Murphys on the call. Literally the exact same spelling.
well, because typically because I mean, if you go to the Murphy and they kind of, a lot of times the Sean will be spelled a little different there. I've seen different iterations of that too. Um,
Yeah.
I've met two other Matt Bells in this industry. Well, there you go, Matt. I appreciate
Yep.
it. You feel the pain. My last name is, unless you go to like Holland or something, there's a bunch of Waltons there, but my grandpa came over in the late 1800s and he was a Wilski, and most of those people became Wilsons to kind of Americanize, and he chose this Waltons. Who knows? Maybe he had a Dutch girlfriend or something. I don't know someday. But if you live in the U.S. and your last name is spelled like mine, you probably have a line back to my great grandfather. So there's not a lot of us. Two banes of all UC rooms are Max and HDCP, and now HP's USB-C low power went on battery. Any way to handle the second one?
Oh, so the power, if I'm understanding the second one.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So we don't have the ability to power the laptop through the USB-C connection of the Ven 4. It's because we are powering the Ven 4 with PoE++, and we just can't get enough power through that connection alone to be able to also do laptop charging. I believe we're looking into if there are any like USB power injectors like inline that we can support, but we do need to make sure that first and foremost that can also support the it can also support the protocols necessary for the content and the bridging from that USB-C port. Um, HP's go into a 3-volt USB-C connection running on battery power, which causes problems. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not aware of that. Um, which is I think we have HP laptop.
Yeah, we have HPs, but maybe you know what? That might be something to talk to Sonny about. Maybe the newest ones we've got.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never noticed that, but I'll have to look at that. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
right.
don't know.
Sometimes we all learn in these webinars too, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's a good group share. So yeah, Stanton, we'll look and see on that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's time. I
Right
mean,
on. Well, thank you again. Oh, my last chime in that I was trying to do 10 minutes ago was if you're, let's see, what do we got coming up for other deep dives? So this one is Room Suite Design. Next week, best practices in gain structure and AEC. You know, it's funny. I put that one. I'm like, there's no way that we can. For 5 years, I've been running this thing, and I can do it once a quarter, and we get 100 people. So if you've got some new technicians or people on staff, or if you just want to refresh yourself, it's nothing's changed in physics in the last 5 years, so there won't be a whole lot to there. But yeah, that's available. And then looking into September, we're looking for a planning clocking domains. One of our biggest challenges that we find is people don't understand, you know, where the cores clock off of each other and how that works. So this is just kind of a 100-foot view. You don't need to be a network administrator. Um, and then introduction to our NVM series products. We did that one at the first week of August. We'll also be doing that again. Actually, I think YouTube characters will be redoing that one. So introduction to the NVM product line, just an overview on that, and then how to choose the right core processor. When we came out with the 24F and the X10 and all that, so this just kind of provides some clarification. If you in the past, you know, were like, well, I know when I need a Core 110 and I know when I need a 510 and I know when to go to a, this is just going to kind of help you align with like what the features of each of those are. So appreciate, thank you, Jim, and thank you, Sean, for jumping in. Even though I tried to kick you out early, Sean, I'll be better at that. And yeah, we'll call it a day from here. Appreciate it. So.
thanks everyone.